Platoon wasn't just a movie, it was war, trauma, and truth stitched into every frame. These disturbing behind-the-scenes facts reveal the real pain that made it unforgettable. Fact 1.
What you been smoking, Junior?
I hope you don't get that laundry gig. I hope Manny get it. It's your ass to hump, hump, and hump.
Director Oliver Stone didn't imagine Platoon, he lived it. Before becoming a filmmaker, he volunteered for combat duty in Vietnam. He served as an infantryman in the 25th Infantry Division and later the 1st Cavalry Division. Stone earned a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart for his service. He wrote Platoon to process the trauma he carried home. The characters of Elias and Barnes were inspired by real soldiers he served under. Stone said Elias was based on a sergeant who protected him, while Barnes came from a cold-blooded killer. He started writing the script in 1971, right after his return from the war. No studio wanted to produce it because Vietnam films weren't profitable at the time. It took 15 years and the success of Salvador to finally get it greenlit. Stone wanted Platoon to feel raw, unpolished, and claustrophobic, like real combat. He made the cast live like soldiers to understand the fear and exhaustion. Stone even used real military tactics to choreograph scenes. He included moments that had haunted him for years, like friendly fire and accidental killings. Many of the film's most disturbing scenes are pulled directly from Stone's memories. He described the experience of making the film as ripping open an old wound. Stone didn't want to make an action movie. He wanted to make people uncomfortable. And he succeeded. Platoon shocked audiences and critics alike. Veterans said it was one of the only films that truly captured the chaos of Vietnam. The film won Best Picture, but for Stone, it was never about awards. It was a cinematic confession, and every scene bleeds with the scars of real war. Fact 2. Before filming began, Oliver Stone made a bold decision. He forced the entire cast to endure a real-life military boot camp in the Philippine jungle. For 2 full weeks, the actors lived like actual soldiers. No trailers, no phones, no contact with the outside world. They slept in foxholes, carried 60-pound packs, and ate Vietnam War-era rations. A former Marine named Dale Dye led the camp and treated the cast like real recruits. He made them dig latrines, run patrols, and stage night ambushes. No one was allowed to break character, even at night. Dye intentionally gave Charlie Sheen less guidance to simulate confusion and fear. The idea was to make Sheen feel like a disoriented new recruit, exactly like his character, Chris. Actors weren't told what scenes were being filmed each day. Stone and Dye withheld scripts and orders to heighten stress and realism. Many of the cast later said they were mentally and physically broken by the end. Some considered quitting the film entirely. The experience created real divisions among the cast, especially between the Elias and Barnes camps. Those who played hard-nosed soldiers bonded over shared misery. Those playing newbies were intentionally isolated and intimidated. The psychological effects spilled into performances naturally. Willem Dafoe said the camp gave him a visceral relationship to fear. Tom Behringer, who played Barnes, embraced the brutality and intimidation. When filming began, the cast didn't need to act. They were already in survival mode. That boot camp bled straight into the camera, and it made every gunshot, every glance, and every breakdown feel terrifyingly real. Fact 3. Platoon wasn't just emotionally taxing, it was physically dangerous. The crew shot on location in the jungle of Luzon in the Philippines. The terrain was wet, steep, and filled with hidden hazards. Charlie Sheen sprained his ankle in a real trench while retreating from an explosion. Forrest Whitaker cut his hand on barbed wire during a night shoot. Johnny Depp reportedly got an ear infection from the damp, dirty environment. Tom Berenger wore a special prosthetic scar that caused skin irritation in the tropical heat. Willem Dafoe suffered bruised ribs during a rough stunt fall. Explosive charges were set off dangerously close to actors, with limited protection. One misfire nearly singed an extra's clothing during the ambush scene. Rain often turned the set into a mudslide, increasing injury risk. Medical crews were on standby at all times due to dehydration and heat exhaustion. Some actors developed tropical skin infections from the conditions. The sound of real gunfire from local military training bases added to the tension. The physical hardship was not staged, it was happening for real. Oliver Stone believed pain brought honesty to the performances. When Sheen stumbles or limps in the film, it's often unscripted. The film didn't use stunt doubles for most sequences. Everyone was expected to do their own crawling, falling, and sweating. The injuries weren't planned, but they became part of the texture of the film. In the jungle of Platoon, fiction and reality bled together, and the audience felt every bruise. Fact 4.
I thought it was O'Neill's turn tonight.
No. Tubbs and Morehouse are short. Pew Shang's going on an R&R tomorrow, and you want to send them out on an ambush? You got the fresh meat, buddy.
Tom Behringer played Sergeant Barnes with terrifying intensity, but his portrayal wasn't just acting, it leaked into real life on set. Behringer stayed in character even when the cameras stopped rolling. He barely spoke to the other actors unless it was through intimidation. His scarred prosthetic makeup made him unrecognizable and disturbing to approach. Some younger cast members avoided him entirely during the boot camp. Oliver Stone encouraged this behavior to heighten fear and hierarchy. Behringer would often walk through the jungle in full gear, muttering in character. He improvised angry outbursts and stared actors down to create discomfort. Even Charlie Sheen said Behringer gave him real chills on set. During the filming of the scene where Barnes threatens Chris, Sheen's fear was genuine. Behringer's voice would drop to a low growl, and he'd change his posture to appear animalistic. Stone only gave him loose direction, trusting Behringer's instincts. At one point, Behringer accidentally cut himself on his own gear and insisted on continuing. He believed Barnes needed to be both feared and pitied. That emotional complexity made him more than a villain. Veterans watching the film praised his performance as eerily accurate. Many said they'd served under men just like him. Off-screen, Behringer was quiet and intense, but respectful of the process. He called Barnes a man built by war and broken by it, and his haunting presence shaped the entire film's tone. There's a reason he earned an Oscar nomination. He didn't just play Barnes, he became him. Fact 5. The haunting opening shot of Platoon features a transport chopper landing in a misty clearing. It wasn't a set, it was a real jungle LZ landing zone used by the Philippine military. Oliver Stone wanted authenticity from the first frame. The area was remote and could only be reached by helicopter or off-road vehicle. The smoke drifting through the trees came from controlled military exercises. Local military units helped with transportation and coordination. The soldiers seen unloading gear were partially trained Filipino troops in costume. The choppers were real UH-1 Hueys, borrowed from the Philippine Air Force. Pilots flew them exactly as they would in a combat drop. There were no rehearsals, just one take with multiple cameras rolling. Cameramen were stationed on the ground and inside the helicopters. The expression on Charlie Sheen's face was unscripted. He was genuinely overwhelmed. Stone wanted the audience to feel the chaos and disorientation of arrival. The film's production team used maps and military data to find accurate drop points. No roads led to the location. Gear was carried in by hand. They used smoke pots to add thickness to the air, mimicking battlefield haze. The humidity was suffocating, and bugs were everywhere. Even the extras were sweating profusely before filming began. The noise of the rotors drowned out all sound cues. Dialogue was added in post. That single shot told audiences everything they needed to know. They weren't in a studio, they were in war. And that realism started before the first line was spoken. Fact 6. Platoon almost didn't happen, despite years of development. Just weeks before filming, the studio's financial backer pulled out unexpectedly. The production was left scrambling for cash, with locations already scouted and crew contracts signed. Oliver Stone reached out to independent producer Arnold Kopelson, who had recently worked on low-budget thrillers. Kopelson read the script and was immediately hooked. He saw its potential not just as a war movie, but as a powerful character study. Kopelson agreed to fund the film, but with conditions. He required Stone to tighten the script and promise a 54-day shoot, maximum. Stone accepted, knowing it was his last shot. The budget was set at just $6 million, far below typical war films. This meant fewer sets, real locations, and minimal special effects. Stone adapted by cutting scenes and improvising with the terrain. Some sequences were filmed guerrilla style, without full permits. The crew often shot in natural light to avoid expensive rig setups. Coupleson also pushed for stronger marketing, something Orion Pictures initially resisted. When the film was finished, test screenings stunned executives. Word of mouth from early viewers caused a bidding war for distribution rights. The small, risky film was suddenly a serious Oscar contender. It eventually grossed over $130 million worldwide. Coupleson won the Academy Award for Best Picture, his first ever. And the film he saved went on to define an entire generation of war cinema. Platoon was almost abandoned, but risk turned into history. Fact 7. Oliver Stone didn't just cast actors, he hired real fighters. Many of the extras seen in the background were former soldiers, both American and Filipino. Some had served in Vietnam, while others fought in local conflicts. They brought raw energy and real tactical knowledge to the set. Director Dale Dye helped coordinate their movements and commands. When filming firefights, these veterans corrected actors on how to hold rifles and move under fire. Stone trusted their instincts more than scripted choreography. One former soldier reportedly broke down during a napalm scene. It triggered real memories. Another requested to leave the set early, unable to continue due to PTSD symptoms. The production provided limited psychological support, but the trauma was real. Stone said their presence made him feel like he was back in the war zone. He interviewed several of them for ideas during script rewrites. Some background dialogue was improvised based on their experiences. The soldiers taught actors how to sweep through the jungle silently and communicate with hand signals. Many of the scenes feel authentic because they were shaped by real memory. The extras didn't just fill space. They brought haunted, tired faces. Stone refused to give them clean uniforms or hero shots. They were filmed as is, dirty, wet, and sometimes limping. The realism hit audiences hard, especially veterans. These men weren't acting. They were reliving what they'd already survived, and the camera never flinched. Fact 8. Willem Dafoe's character, Sergeant Elias, has one of the most iconic deaths in film history. His final run through the jungle, arms outstretched, became Platoon's defining image. But what most viewers don't know is, it was filmed in a single take. The sequence required dozens of moving parts, including choppers, squibs, and timed gunfire. Dafoe was wired with multiple explosive blood packs, carefully set to detonate mid-run. He had only one chance to hit all his marks. The helicopter had to be positioned perfectly to capture the wide aerial shot. Camera operators were stationed both in the air and on the ground. Dafoe rehearsed the sequence multiple times but only filmed it once. Everything, his stumble, his crawl, and the final collapse, was real and unscripted. The arms raised pose wasn't in the script. Dafoe improvised it on instinct. Oliver Stone was stunned when he saw it in the monitor. He immediately knew he had the shot. The raw emotion on Dafoe's face wasn't acting. He was exhausted and overwhelmed. Explosions were so close that he suffered minor burns on one hand. The crew erupted in applause when the cameras cut. Stone called it divine choreography with death. The image became the poster, the VHS cover, and the emotional heart of the film. It captured the loss, betrayal, and sacrifice of the entire war in 10 seconds. That's why it was never redone. Dafoe gave everything in one take, and history was captured in that moment. Fact 9. Platoon's brutal realism didn't sit well with everyone. Several countries considered banning it due to graphic violence and political sensitivity. In Thailand and Singapore, censorship boards objected to scenes involving Vietnamese villagers. They believed it portrayed Southeast Asian civilians in a disturbing and negative light. France nearly delayed the film's release due to anti-American sentiment in the script. Military governments in South America feared the movie would inspire anti-authoritarian sentiment. In South Korea, screenings were limited to adult-only showings. Even in the US, some conservative groups called it anti-American propaganda. Oliver Stone faced public backlash from Vietnam War supporters and veterans organizations. He was accused of reopening old wounds and glorifying chaos. Stone defended the film as truth, not politics. He said, "This is how it was, and if it disturbs you, good." Orion Pictures created alternate trailers for international markets, toning down the violence. The UK gave it an 18+ rating and added a warning about psychological content. Despite the controversy, the film found its audience. It even aired on public TV in some countries, uncut as a cautionary tale. Veterans in Australia and Canada held public Q&A screenings. Many who initially opposed the film changed their views after seeing it. Stone was unapologetic and refused to edit the film post-release. He believed the world needed to see war as it truly was. And even in censorship, Platoon made its point. Truth is often too real to handle. Fact 10. Before Platoon, most war films were about glory and strategy. They showed clean uniforms, heroic missions, and clear good versus evil narratives. But Platoon flipped the genre on its head. It showed war as a moral collapse, where the enemy was sometimes on your own side. Oliver Stone's approach was brutally honest and deeply personal. The film didn't romanticize soldiers, it humanized them, flaws and all. Characters made mistakes, turned on each other, and broke down. Critics called it the first truly post-traumatic war film. It paved the way for Full Metal Jacket, Casualties of War, and Saving Private Ryan. The US military initially refused to support the film, fearing bad publicity, but veterans across the country praised it for its honesty. It became required viewing in some high school and college history classes. Hollywood studios began greenlighting more complex emotional war stories. Stone himself followed it with Born on the 4th of July and Heaven and Earth. Platoon also reshaped the public's understanding of moral injury, not just physical trauma. The characters didn't just fight, they unraveled. And that truth struck a nerve across generations. It showed that war doesn't just kill bodies, it erodes the soul. In 1987, it won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. But its real legacy is how it changed storytelling. Platoon made it impossible to look at war the same way again, and no war film since has dared to be as honest.